Alright, is that recording? Alright, cool. If I don't cut this out, you could call me lazy, but, yeah, it's chord time. So chords are fucking crazy, is the best way to put it, I think. Chords are like a rabbit hole that never ends, because you could always do more stuff with it. And it's really cool, but really crazy. So I can't knock this all out in one video. I am nowhere near smart enough or I don't know, good at words enough to do that. So we're going to go over the basics. Because I like to keep these videos short. Anyway, long ass intro. Cool. So this is going to build off of the interval stuff that we were working on before. So if you haven't watched that video and you don't know about intervals, please go ahead and do that, because it will be a little confusing if you don't. So we're going to go over about a few of the main chords you see most commonly used. So we're going to go over a major chord first. So a major chord is based off of a major third, which is an interval of two whole steps from a note. So you have like C, you go 1, 2, right? So you get a C and a E. This is too quiet. Give me one moment here. Is that better? That works, yeah. Okay. So now that we have the major third, you have to add another thing. An interval of a perfect fifth from C. Now, right now, we don't know the cool, fast, awesome way to get perfect fifths super fast. So we're just gonna have to do the, ready? 1, 2, 3, and then a half step. So it's 3 whole steps and 1 half step to get you to G. So C to G is a perfect fifth. And now you have a major third here and a minor third here. That's what you call a major chord. And this applies for pretty much, well, this literally applies for every major chord. I don't know why I said pretty much. So the only thing to be careful of when you're counting whole steps and half steps is, because here to here is a half step as opposed to here being a whole step. So you go boop, yeah. That's the only little weird thing, is these little two areas. But it makes sense, because you just skip over a note to do a whole step. Anyway, so that's a major chord. Now, just because a C major chord looks like this doesn't mean all major chords are going to look like that. From what I mean is like B major is B, D sharp, F sharp, which is, a little different. Okay, anyway. Next up, we're going to just throw a C minor chord at you. So C minor, really simple. You take a C major chord and you take this, make it a minor third, which is a whole step and a half step, right? So that, yeah, wow, crazy, right? And congratulations, pretty much all the chords that a lot of country music people use. So congrats. Anyway, yeah. And then next up is diminished and augmented chords. These chords are very spicy and very cool. So a diminished chord is when you take a C minor chord, right? And then you go up to this perfect fifth, drop it by a half step. That sounds like... Now this is a very powerful chord. It's very dissonant, but it's very dissonant, but it has a very nice function wherein whenever you play a diminished chord, the note directly a half step above the root, which is, like, this is C diminished, so the root is C. So it goes root, third, fifth, yeah. Anyway, the note directly a half step above the root of the chord is what this chord wants to resolve to. So you do So if you have a C diminished, it wants to resolve to a D flat. So let's just slap a D flat major chord there, and we'll get like a pleasant resolution. Yeah, sounds pretty nice. Yeah. Anyway. Then next up is an augmented chord. So while a diminished chord was modifying a minor chord, augmented chord is going to modify a major third. Essentially do the opposite of what you just did with the diminished chord. You have a major chord, take the fifth, raise it up a half step. Now this chord is a little bit more dissonant, but it's very useful. I can't quite go into why it's useful yet because that requires a whole nother concept, but that'll probably be the next video. But yeah, just know that diminished chords are also a very good resolution tool. I'll show you how after I get another concept out. Yeah, so that is like the very, very basics of chords. There is, like, in my opinion, an infinite amount of chords that you could make because there's just so many different combinations and so many different names for everything. Like, if you slap a keyboard, like, I'm just gonna play some random notes, right? Chances are there's a name for this. And, well, the name isn't that important when you get to a chord that sounds like this. In some cases, it's still nice to know, but for now, you just need to know your minor and major, augmented and diminished. And I hope that was helpful. Any questions, of course, lay it out in the Discord server. And also, a quick note before I wrap this up is something I neglected to mention in my intervals video, and something that is very important, is that even if something sounds bad, like an interval, for example, like let's do a major seventh, right? C to B. That's not particularly pleasant, but even if it sounds bad, that doesn't mean it's not something you can't use. Because in a lot of ways, if you put these weird sounding intervals in context, you get these really beautiful sounds. And so just keep in mind that there's no wrong interval and there's no wrong chord. It doesn't matter what kind of chord you're making. You could make the chord we just made before. It was like something like that, right? Yeah, and you could find a use for it. It's not wrong. There's no wrong chords. It's great. It's so much fun. And one more thing, taking this right out of what Jacob Collier said, is so obviously what a lot of composers like to do is they like to have chords on the bottom and then a melody up top. So I don't know. Let's fiddle around with like, I don't know. Yeah, you get it. But because every note has a different relationship intervallically with the chord, they're all going to give different colors based off of the chord. And it's important to know that even though some notes don't exactly harmonize with the chord beneath them, that doesn't mean that they can't work. Every note goes with every chord. They just give different colors based off of the chord. So like a D sharp or an E flat, it's not going to sound that good with a C major chord, but that's also a very useful dissonance because that makes people want to hear resolution. So you do something like that already sounds satisfying. And you could do that with like anything. G sharp, like they may not sound good, but that's a bad way to put it. They don't sound good on their own, but they can sound absolutely incredible if used right and in context. So just keep that in mind, and that's part of the reason why chords is such an infinite rabbit hole, because there's so much you can do with how much things interact with each other and just hearing the different interactions that can come out of them. And it's very important, because I was not taught this, and I spent a good while just messing up horribly. Remember to be creative. Just because a note doesn't sound exactly just because a note doesn't harmonize with the chord beneath it doesn't mean that it can't be used. And major, minor, augmented, diminished are nowhere near the only chords you could use. This is just good to know, but just remember to experiment and have fun with this, because that's what it's all about. Yeah, I probably ranted for way too long there. Yeah, 10 minutes, Jesus Christ. Well, if you stayed this long, congrats. You heard an insane person talk about chords, and there's going to be a lot more where that came from. Anyway, thanks. Yeah, see you all later. Stop recording.